In the summer of 1893, Chicago felt unstoppable. The world's Columbian expedition had turned the city into a symbol of progress. Electric lights illuminated white buildings so bright they were called the White City. Millions of visitors arrived to witness what many believe was the future of modern civilization. Industry, innovation, and confidence. America was celebrating itself. But just a few miles from the fairgrounds, on a quiet corner of Inglewood, stood a 3-story brick building that represented something very different. It did not glow, it did not attract crowds, and it did not advertise spectacle. It operated quietly, and the man who owned it understood something most people did not. Trust is easier to build than it is to question. Women rented rooms there, employees worked there, business was conducted there, and over time, some of those people were never seen again. The owner of the building called himself H. Holmes. Now, before we go any further, let's be clear about something. This is not Sherlock Holmes, the fictional detective created by Arthur Conan Doyle. That Holmes solved crimes. This Holmes committed them. Sherlock Holmes relied on logic and deduction. H. Holmes relied on charm and deception. One existed in fiction, the other stood in court. Welcome to the Context Chronicles, Beyond the Headlines. History examined without myth, truth without speculation. Tonight we look at the life and crime of H. Holmes and how one man exploited a very system that was meant to represent modern progress. Because while Chicago celebrated the future in 1893, H. Holmes was building something else, and it did not require electricity to operate. Holmes was born Herman Webster Mudgett in 1861 in New Hampshire. Accounts of his childhood vary. Some describe him as an intellectual and withdrawn. Later claims of cruelty or trauma came mostly from Holmes himself. He was not a reliable narrator. What we do know is that he was academically capable. He studied medicine at University of Michigan. It was during medical school that deception began to take shape. Holmes reportedly took out insurance policies under false names, using cadavers from the autonomy lab. He staged fake accidents, deaths, and collected the payouts. This mattered because before there was murder, there was fraud. Before violence, there was manipulation. He learned early that paperwork could be altered, records could be forged, systems could be bent. Crime for Holmes began as calculation. In the mid-1880s, Holmes moved to Chicago, a city expanding rapidly after the Great Fire of 1871. Industry was booming. Rail lines connected the county? And the country. That does say county. Obviously, I need to clearly pay attention to my own notes. And opportunity was everywhere. Now, Holmes found work in a pharmacy owned by Dr. E.S. Holton in Englewood. Now, after Holton's death, Holmes gained control of the business. The details remain debated, but Holmes soon had a property, a credit, and independence. He changed his name to Henry Howard Holmes, a professional name, a respectable name, a name that mattered in a growing city full of strangers. In a place where few people knew your past, it was easy. Between 1887 and 1892, Holmes expanded his property at the 63rd and Wallace, adding floors, reconfiguring rooms, changing layouts. Contractors were hired and dismissed before completion. No single builder understood the full structure. The building contained retail space downstairs and rental rooms above. Some rooms were unusually isolated, certain doors locked from the outside, and there were concealed areas and a large furnace in the basement. Later, newspapers would call it the murder castle. Descriptions included torture chambers and elaborate traps. Most of that came from sensational reporting. What is verifiable is simpler. Holmes controlled access. He controlled movement. And he controlled who entered and who left. Control does not require speculation or to be a spectacular. It required privacy. When the World's Columbian Expedition opened in 1893, over 27 million people visited Chicago. Housing was scarce, employment uncertain, and many women arrived alone seeking work. Holmes advertised rooms and job opportunities. To newcomers, he appeared stable and professional. He offered structure in a chaotic city. Truth is often built through small reassurances, a contract, a smile, a steady tone. Holmes understood that. Holmes is often credited with killing over 100 people. There is no reliable evidence supporting that claim. Modern historians generally estimate between 9 and 12 likely victims. Among those most strongly linked was Julie Smythe and her daughter Pearl. Emmeline Singard, Minnie and Ninnie Williams, and Benjamin Pitzel, and Pitzel's 3 children, Alice, Nellie, and Howard. Some disappearances are supported by remains, others by financial trails. Not every story attached to Holmes can be proven. Restraint mattered. It was dangerous enough without extravagant. It was dangerous without showing off, because that word did not want to come out, and it's not going to come out, so let's carry on. In 1894, Holmes partnered with Benjamin in what was meant to be another insurance fraud. The plan was simple. Benjamin was to fake his death, collect the payout, and they'd split the money. Instead, Benjamin was found dead in Philadelphia, burned. Investigations determined that he likely been rendered unconscious before the fire. Fraud had crossed into murder. And murder draws attention. After Benjamin's death, Holmes took custody with 3 children. Don't ask me how or why, but he did. He moved them between Chicago, Detroit, Toronto, and Indianapolis. Letters home became infrequent, and then they stopped. The children's bodies were later found in separate locations. Now the case crossed state lines. Multiple jurisdictions were involved. Holmes had to rely on isolation, but isolation breaks down when records connect. Detective Frank Geyer of the Philadelphia Police followed the case methodically. He traced rental agreements, hotel ledgers, train routes, witness statements. Now Holmes used aliases, but aliases still generated paperwork, and paperwork created patterns. City by city, Geyer reconstructed Holmes's path, and Holmes was arrested in Boston in November 1984. Initially on fraud charges. Paper caught him before the blood did. And that detail mattered. Holmes was tried in Philadelphia in 1895 for the murder of Benjamin Pitzel. The prosecution focused narrowly to secure conviction. He was found guilty. While awaiting execution, Holmes gave multiple confessions to newspapers. The number of victims changed from interview to interview. Some claimed that the evidence just wasn't there. Holmes remained manipulative to the very end. He was executed by hanging on the 7th of May, 1896. Now, unlike Jack the Ripper, Holmes did not disappear into legend. He stood in a courtroom, he was judged, and he was executed. Holmes did not invent modern crime. He exploited modern systems, insurance, mobility, credit, and anonymity in a growing city. But those same systems eventually connected. Whitechapel revealed weaknesses in police patrolling. Chicago revealed weaknesses in administration. Each failure forced adaptation. Each exposure strengthened coordination. Holmes thrived in gaps between systems, and when those gaps began to close, so did his freedom. This is the Context Chronicles, Beyond the Headlines.